Hey there, and welcome. Today, we are diving into a really fascinating and, I gotta say, pretty radical framework for understanding human consciousness. It's a model that doesn't just want to describe our feelings, it actually tries to measure them, creating something it calls the map of consciousness. So the whole idea kicks off with this massive problem. The source we're looking at today says that for all of human history, our biggest challenge has been telling the difference between what something truly is, its essence, and what it just looks like, its appearance. And that, of course, leads to a pretty wild question. What if you could actually cut through all the noise, all the appearances, and find a way to measure the truth of something? I mean, imagine having a yardstick for reality itself. So let's start right there with that core idea, essence versus appearance. Because according to this work, getting this right isn't just some philosophical exercise, it's actually a matter of survival. See, this isn't just for our big human brains. Nope. Every single living thing, from a tiny little protozoa all the way up to us, has to be able to tell what's good for it and what's bad for it, what will help it grow and what will kill it. You get it wrong, you don't survive. It's that simple. And that innate skill is all about responding to essence. So the author says they found a key to unlocking all this through a method called kinesiology. Now, in this specific context, it's used as a technique that supposedly taps into the human body's own built-in ability to tell truth from falsehood. And it's this very method that led to the creation of the map we're about to explore. Which brings us to the main event, the map of consciousness itself. So let's pull back the curtain and see how this whole hierarchy is supposed to work. Okay, so the map is a logarithmic scale. It runs from 1, which is like the barest minimum of consciousness, all the way up to 1,000. And 1,000 is described as the level of the great avatars of history, figures like Buddha, Jesus, and Krishna. The map is really split into two big zones. Down here at the bottom, we've got the emotional states that are driven by what the source calls force. We're talking about things like shame, guilt, fear, and anger. When you're living in these states, life feels pretty hostile, like it's out to get you. But as we climb up that scale, we make a huge shift into states of power. It all starts with courage at level 200, moves up through reason in the 400s, and then hits these really crucial levels of love and unconditional love in the 500s before going on to states of enlightenment and way, way beyond. Now, within this entire scale, there's one number that's described as being more important than any other: 200. The source calls this the Great Divide, and it's supposedly a massive turning point, not just for individuals, but for all of humanity. So level 200 is courage. Think of it as the escape hatch. It's the very first step out of those negative, survival-based emotions. According to this model, when you cross that threshold from force into power, you fundamentally change how you experience reality itself. And this just lays it all out, doesn't it? The source claims that below 200, a person is basically running on a left brain, animal instinct kind of physiology. The mindset is predatory, it's all about taking, and life feels like a constant fight. But above 200, the claim is there's a shift to right brain dominance. The whole vibe becomes more benign, the mindset is about nurturing, and life starts to look fundamentally good. Okay, so get ready for a pretty startling statistic from the research behind this map. It claims that for most of history, about 85% of the entire world's population has calibrated below that critical level of 200. I mean, just look at that. It really visualizes the huge scale of negativity and force-based thinking in the world. So, if that's true, it raises a really big question, right? If the world is so full of negativity, how have we even made it this far? Why hasn't everything just collapsed under all that weight? And the source asks this exact same question. If the vast majority of people are operating from a place of fear and anger and just general antagonism, what's the glue holding it all together? Well, the answer is actually pretty simple, and it all comes back to how the scale was designed in the first place. It's not linear, it's logarithmic. And that, my friends, changes everything. So what does that really mean? It means the energy of the higher levels is exponentially more powerful than the energy of the lower ones. The positive power from a single individual calibrating way up at level 700 can, according to this model, completely counterbalance the collective negativity of millions and millions of people operating below 200. It's wild. The few can literally outweigh the many. So you see, this framework isn't just trying to put emotions into different boxes. It's actually asking us to totally rethink our understanding of reality, of cause and effect, and even of science itself. The source makes this great point that science, which calibrates up in the 400s, the level of reason, and spiritual reality, which really starts in the 500s, the level of love, they aren't fighting each other. They're just different paradigms. They're playing by different sets of rules. You can't use the rules of one to disprove the other.
And this leads to a huge, mind-bending shift in perspective. Our normal, everyday view of the world is all about causality. A causes B, which causes C. But from a higher level of consciousness, the world is seen as the spontaneous emergence of potentiality. Things don't really cause other things to happen, they just emerge when the conditions are right. Kind of like a flower doesn't force itself to bloom, it just blooms.
So how do you find your place on this map? Well, the source gives us this really powerful metaphor. Imagine that consciousness is this infinite electromagnetic field, and you're like a tiny iron filing. There's no judge sitting on a cloud putting you in a specific spot. Nope. By virtue of your choices, your thoughts, your intentions, basically by what you have become, you automatically position yourself somewhere in that field.
And that's really the ultimate takeaway, isn't it? This whole framework turns the question right back to us. It suggests that our experience of life is a direct result of our own level of consciousness. So the final question is a deeply personal one. In this infinite field of potential, where have you placed yourself?